We go live now, you know what I mean? What LoL music's playing, Omar? Here, Turtle's hyped. Let's go. Love to see it. Oh, is it ruined? Are we live now? Can they see us? Let's go. Oh, okay, faces are wrong, but that's fine. We figured that one out. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Crone's here. Lion is not here, even though I think he might be watching on mobile. He's kind of out of, well, he's not out of action, let's just say. But if he was going to join, it would have to be through mobile, which might be a bit of an effort for an hour and a half. So we thought, you know what? Let's just bang on with the three boys. Crone's back in business. We've got representation from all across the globe. And we're going to have a great show because there certainly is a lot of roster stuff going on. It's about time, really, that we've got some serious, juicy ROSTERMANIA action, because I thought, again, this kind of roster period was going to be kind of boring, kind of expected, teams not really trying to do much. But apparently there's more going on than was initially theorized. So welcome, everyone. Plenty of lads in the YouTube chat. How are we doing, boys? Austin, how's it going?
Doing pretty good, man.
Yeah,
you know,
good,
getting back into the practice groove. So it's been nice. It's been nice to be back.
How's scrims going? Demolishing everyone still?
They're going good. They've never not gone good. So, you know, let's see. We just have to translate that into matches and, you know, really see how it goes.
I think you've really got to go for, like, you've got to come runner-up in the Major 4 Grand Finals and then win champs. Like, that would be an all-time
I would not like that
storyline. That'd be an all-time storyline. It's got to be done. If you win both, it's boring. If you win Major 4 and not champs, it's boring.
I want to win both. I don't want to come in second anymore. I don't like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that one. But I'm confident. I mean, we're going to do some power rankings in a bit as well, so we'll put FaZe in. Well, we'll see what tier we put FaZe in. I know that there's been a load of tier lists going around lately, like power ranking lists, and I think the power ranking list is pretty hard, especially because we're going to have to consider some of these roster moves that are potentially coming through and what that might do to some of these teams. I think we're going to have to factor that in, because otherwise, kind of a pointless episode. We talk about all the changes and then just do the rosters as they were. But yeah, we've got some fun things for you guys today. End of the show, Omar, Dabs, and the boys have prepared for us a Wordle kind of spin-off that is called CODLe, an interactive session where I think there's 3 rounds where we'll try and guess the map. Is it map? Gun is the last round, and then like player is the middle round. So that's going to be fun for you guys to play along with as well. But anyway, welcome everyone. What's good, Kioski? I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it, but I saw you were skipping revision for this, so, you know, got to respect it. The exam will go fine anyway, I'm sure. Jen, should we crack on?
We should.
I'm about it.
Let's go. Okay, episode, is it 69? Yay,
Nice.
Let's go. We made it, boys. We made it. Come on. Appreciate you, Alfie. All right, what's good? Episode 69 of Breaking Point Podcast. Doesn't get any better than this. Let's crack on. I'll do a 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, guys. Time to go out back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome to episode 69. You'd love to see it, of the Breaking Point Podcast. Crone's back here today. Easy Max here as well. Lion Man can't join us, unfortunately, but we have plenty to talk about, and no better man to join us, really, for a spicy ROSTERMANIA episode than Crone himself. Good morning. It's the kids have gone off to school, so we've got we're on our own. We can talk some cards, hour and a bit. Going to be a great show today. We've got some special things as well at the end that you're not going to want to miss. How are we doing, Crone?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I've been bitter, but I'm good at the moment. I'm happy to be here to talk some Call of Duty ROSTERMANIA.
Austin, how's it going? I imagine your boys not involved in too much roster action, but you know they see it going on behind the scenes, and maybe you're scrimming some of these newly formed teams in the trials and stuff.
Honestly, we haven't actually scrimmed anyone like new. Besides like the Gismo one, because Gizmo's obviously announced, but everything's been pretty like standard for us. Hasn't been anything crazy. So yeah, it's been good though. Like getting back into the practice groove. Obviously we finished second to the last major, so but honestly, we finished second, but this is like the best we've played in a while. So it was nice to see we didn't really lose too much momentum with like the break going back home. So I'm actually so excited for like the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. So I reckon we just crack straight on. You mentioned the Gismo thing, the London Gismo situation. He's now been brought back into the team in place of Harry, it seems. Pretty sure I don't think they said it in the announcement tweet, but like he went back to another Challenger's team or whatever. So I think that's the case. They're going back to their roster they had at the start of the year, which is probably, certainly where they looked their best. Yeah, what do you think, Crone? I mean, it's an interesting one. I just do wonder if this is kind of like a whole Asim Visa situation V2, where they look great at the start of the year, other teams catch up and overtake them, and then they kind of struggle towards the end of the year. I think this probably will make them more comfortable in terms of roles again. Like Zero can run the AR like he wants to, and maybe get back to like where he was performing at that level at the start of the season. But I'm just not sure that Gismo can reach the levels that he was at the start of the year, which he needs to if this team wants to be competitive again, probably. And also Nasty individually, like from all the talk about this guy the last couple of years, who's going to come into the scene and just take over. Like he hasn't been playing great lately, it must be said. I mean, stats don't tell the whole story. I think he was very impactful for them at the start of the year, despite not great numbers. But then when you're losing, like you don't really get the benefit of the doubt anymore, right? So I think that's kind of the question for these guys. My expectation is they're going to be a bit more competitive, maybe make champs, and then maybe scrape a top 6 or something. I can't really expect that much. It just seems like a story that we've seen played out before. It's unfortunate for Gismo, but I'd like this team to be more competitive than I think they will be, Crone.
Yeah, I mean they were incredible in the first stage and even the first major. But I don't know, it's confusing what's going on with Gismo because you kind of you had some family issues and mental health issues, and he went home and whatever. But like he's kind of back again, and I'm not really sure. And I don't know if it makes them an incredible team again. I think teams caught up. That's what happened that's what happens every year. There's always the teams that look really good at the start, and then all the other teams catch up. And I think that's what happened with them. And I don't know if they're going to be back to their form for the rest of the season just by bringing Gismo back. I don't think so at all. And like you said, Nasty he's been decent. Like he hasn't been a bad player at all, but he hasn't been like the player that we wanted him to be from what we saw last year.
I kind of agree with you. I've heard some good things about this London team, like when they got Gismo back, but it seems like they always do pretty good with him online. It's just once they get back to LAN, like we really didn't see too much from them yet on LAN with Gismo in the roster previously. So that's something I'm specifically looking for. I want to see like how they kind of rebound there, because I think like they'll always be a good team online. Like I know they haven't been good lately, but I have more faith in them like now. I think in the next couple of weeks, but we'll have to see, because their ceiling is obviously top 3, 4. You could argue. Obviously their floor is a little bit lower depending on where you see them slumping, or like how Gismo does on LAN, but. It will be interesting to see how they rebound going into this next one with all with other teams making changes too as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, what do you guys think from Harry's point of view, right? Because I feel like he did a great job with this team, honestly. I feel like he showed a lot of potential. It just, the roles or whatever didn't seem to work out perfectly, right? And it's just tough for guys like Harry or Wardy or these type of players to get another spot in the league. But I feel like he did enough during his time to kind of at least be on the radar for teams going forwards. But it's just so difficult when you're kind of in that main AR role, especially with the likes of, Clayster, for example, sitting there on the bench now, and, Davpadie as well. Like next season, it's far from easy. It's never easy at all to determine who the 12 main AR is going to be in the league. And if Harry needs to be one of those guys, he can maybe run a flex, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think he was the main AR, really. I feel like that was Trey. I feel like he was like the secondary AR, like third SMG in this roster, but I might have been wrong.
Well, it was interesting what they did.
He is the main AR.
They changed things around. Like Zero was running a sub, then he went back to a flex. Like it was all a bit of a mess. I feel like, I don't know. It's a difficult one, but I feel like he did a respectable job.
He was decent. I think they went. They didn't. I think they went 2 for 5 or something like that. It wasn't incredible, but I think he did. He did all right considering what he was handed to him. Like there wasn't really. I feel like they were just going through, mid-season breakdown when they didn't know what they wanted to do and what positions and all those types of things.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Let's talk Florida though, because when the thing was announced a couple of days ago that Davpadie was going to be trialed without, I thought this is going to be rather a straightforward situation. I think a lot of people have said it's been a long time coming, that Dave, despite having a fair bit of talent and good comms and stuff that seemingly Florida needed, it's probably been enough time, between now and then to actually finally do something right. Like, it's been so frustrating watching this Florida team constantly have a good result, get top 6, and then not make a change. And then finally they do the same thing again. They get top 6, they beat OpTic, lose 2 matches, get top 6. And this time they've actually decided to do it, right? So I thought, okay, fair play. They've come to their senses. They're going to say, okay, Awakening, get you on the flex, get Skies as the main or whatever, bring in an aggressive SMG or like just a slaying SMG really that you need alongside Vivid. The pace of the Awakening and Skies duo already is fast. Like, I think that with minus Dave plus let's say you put a slaying SMG into that team, I think they become a real force if the comms are there, which of course was kind of the Davpadie thing. So that was what I thought they would do. People talked about Yeast, people talked about Pristini as options. Now, the rumor has it presently that it's effectively going to be minus Davpadie plus Major Maniac, and then Vivid is going to get traded for Neptune, which is just like, I don't really know what to say on this because it doesn't make sense from so many different reasons. Firstly, we just discussed the fact that the main AR seemed to be the issue on the team. Slow main AR, not much damage. SMG and Viv was left out to dry. So if you're doing this move, does that mean that you think the Viv was just too fast? But from my perspective, it feels like pace is, as the season progresses, you need more and more aggression to be successful. So there's that angle. And then it's also like, if you're going to get rid of Davpadie, why would you bring in like another very slow AR in Major Maniac, right? It just doesn't seem to solve your issue. Maybe you get a bit more clutch factor there, right? But I can't see how the minus Dave plus Major is anything other than lateral, apart from maybe a Game 5 Search and Destroy where your team might become a bit better. But they're both hella slow. And then bringing Neptune back, even after all the drama he had at the end of last year with the team, right? And Neptune and Awakening weren't getting on, and he was talking about saying, oh, well, the comms are awful and all this type of stuff as he left, and now they want to bring him back. It's like, what is going on in the Florida camp, Crone? I just don't understand it.
I don't know. I think Vivid has been scapegoated here. I think he is his own sub-duo. Like, he doesn't really have. I feel like him and Wake are just doing their own things on the map. I don't know if anyone else is seeing that, but it's weird to me. I don't mind the Major Maniac thing because I think he probably brings a little bit more leadership to the team. I feel like the team was lost sometimes. Like you said, it's one of the most frustrating teams to watch because they can either be really, really good or really, really bad. But I don't know. I feel like Vivid is being scapegoated here, and I'm not big on just letting him go and just benching him and bringing in Neptune. And obviously they're trialing things, so you never know which direction they're going to go. They could just pick up Major Maniac and keep Vivid, or they could get rid of both. But I've always said since the start of the season, I was never really big on Davpadie. I don't think that was the best choice for them. Everyone can agree that they had 3 main ARs on the team, whether or not Wake's running a sub or not. I know he ran a sub.
Wants to realize it, but
yeah,
there we are.
I mean, I guess it was tough for them because they looked good at times, and then when it mattered, they were just not good. So I'm glad they're making a change. I just hope they make the right one. And I just think Vivid's been scapegoated here.
Yeah, the way I look at Vivid is the same way I look at like ASIM. They both do a lot of the dirty work. They're both like selfless, almost to like being too selfless, where they should think more about themselves, like on the map, and like do stuff to help themselves out more instead of like sacrifice for the team. I didn't think Vivid was doing that good. I personally thought he was slumping, like he was putting up a lot of like 0.8s. I still didn't think he was bad by any means. I thought like he could be a good SMG for that roster. The thing is like Awakening was playing the SMG. He was on the slower side of being an SMG, which again is like could be fine. But I felt like that was hurting Vivid, as he really didn't have somebody to play off of him. And I know like that could have made his job a lot easier. But hopefully he gets another shot in a different team, depending on what route they go with the roster change, or if that even goes through. We still don't even know yet, really. So there's still a lot of answers that we need. Overall, I think the thing that plagued them is if you're gonna have Awakening, who's a slower sub, who's really kill heavy, not as much objective rotating heavy, right? Your flex player has to pick up that aggression, right? He's got to be the one that helps your SMG player out, and I don't think they were getting that with Skies. Like, no offense to Skies or Dave, but that was something that hurt them more. So they were on just a slower pace, and that kind of left Vivid out to dry because his pace stayed at that level, and it was just him. So that's just little things that they just couldn't fix, or maybe they realize that their ceiling will never be high enough with this current roster, or maybe they think they've peaked and they need like to change it up to get to a higher level. So there's a bunch of things. They're also on the outside looking in for champs. I think that has to be a consideration. They've had like 8 months now as a roster, and if it hasn't clicked now, do you really wait too much longer? And even if people don't think that this was the correct change, they had to do something, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just feel, I don't know if it's interesting Vivid's perspective, because I talked to him in one of the interviews recently, and I got the perception that his mindset was impacted to a degree by when he played with Crim last year on the Dallas Empire. That like he has very much of a kind of second isn't good enough type attitude, which you don't really get to hear a lot from him, right, in terms of his personality and stuff and how driven he is to win. But he very much was the case last year, and he talked about the fact that he thinks they should have won champs last year. He thinks they were the best team going into champs last year. He thinks it was their event to win, and he was, they came third in the end, right? They lost to Toronto in that kind of crazy losers finals at champs last season, but he thought they could have gone one better. They lost to FaZe in the grand finals on that Dallas team at stage 4 major on LAN. Like, him and Shotzi as an SMG duo last year was superb. I think they were really good, as you might well expect. I mean, like, any one pair with Shotzi is going to look pretty good probably, but I feel like Vivid did a great job in that team, given the fact that the AR duo wasn't doing an incredible amount of slaying. They often got outslayed and did rather well. So yeah, I don't really know what Florida are thinking here, because they brought in Vivid, and everyone said during the off season, because Vivid wasn't yet signed and Havoc was there, and everyone was like, yeah, Vivid's the guy to go for. They eventually do it, get him. And I think he was one of the key pieces of when they were having success. I agree. I think you're right in terms of being left out to dry, but I'm surprised they wouldn't at least. Maybe they did give it a go for a couple of days with Yeez in there as the SMG, and then it just didn't work or didn't click or whatever, and they thought this is a better approach. But I just can't see it being a better approach. I feel like it's the same type of team as they've just had, and then the Neptune change is like, I don't know. I mean, Neptune, when he was on New York, we know that he wasn't happy with the system he was in. He wanted a chance to prove himself. He's been looking very good indeed, it must be said, in the Challenger side, but it's Challengers. We'll see how he fares in the Pro League, right? Of course, we've seen other players that have come to Challengers, come into the Pro side, and it hasn't, like, they're not going to drop the same numbers, not going to drop 2.0s in Search and Destroy and stuff like that, like he was doing at the Toronto Open. But, I mean, yeah, Eeks kind of described Neptune as effectively the Davpadie of the SMGs, right? When he was on Subliners at the start of the year, he was the guy with lower kills, lower deaths, lower damage. And I don't think he'll be that guy on this team, but it is a bit of a concern when your SMG duo has just got an awful lot slower. So, yeah, final thoughts, Kron, on the Florida future here, right? Because I just can't see them doing any better than top 6. I just can't see how this team possibly improves if that's the change they make.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to guess without seeing them play. But Neptune and Wait to get on stuff, I think that's just going to be what happened in New York, right? Like, just doing their own thing on the map, roaming. No one really. New York wanted someone to play OBJ and do all the dirty work. I don't think either of those players are doing that. And Neptune said himself he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to be, the hill guy. Or I'm pretty sure he said that. But I don't know. I think Major Maniac is a good move for Davpadie, because you get a little bit more leadership. I know people compare them to both of them being slow, but I think Major Maniac would be a better option than Davpadie. But I'm not sold on Neptune and Awakening being the sub duo. Even, I mean, they could go another route. They could keep it. It could be Yeez. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what they do. I'm confused.
Florida too confusing.
Yeah, it's been that roster the entire season. I feel like they, like, on their good days, they could be like a top team, but on like their bad days,
100%.
like it's pretty bad. It's just one of those teams that, like, and I always say, like, there's a lot of like amateur players, there's a lot of pro players that could come in and put up 1.5s, here or there. But it's really hard to do it consistently. It's something that's what makes you a top tier pro, is doing stuff consistently. We've seen amateurs come in, they put up like, they have a good series here or there, but it's about consistency. How you can do it day in and day out. Because as you can see, like the major cycle runs over 4 weeks. Like you can't just check out for 2 weeks, come back in, have one god week, and then check out again. Like it's not going to be good enough. And that's something where I think they might have struggled a little bit. But yeah, those have to figure it out, and they'll have to do it pretty rapidly because pretty much only have like 3 weeks left in the season for teams, 3 or 4 weeks left, that teams that aren't going to make it the champs.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the good point, really, to bring into Boston, because it doesn't seem like, at least, well, there were maybe some brief rumors that Boston were going to change. At least the current going thing is that they're not going to make any moves, which is interesting to me because it feels like Los Angeles Guerrillas, I think, are the most at risk of not making champs, at least out of the teams that have been, well, honestly, pretty much out of the teams that are not in the bottom four. I think LAG are the most at risk. But Boston are only 5 points ahead of them, and they're not looking good at all right now. I mean, they got barely any points at all. Well, they won one series or something last stage and then got completely boobopped out of the major top 12. And I think they got 3 by Rocker or something, which wasn't particularly impressive because Rocker lost both the other series they played. So, I mean, the thing is with Boston, like, what would you change if you were to change it? Because Methods, like he was, in terms of a drop-off from stage 2 to stage 3 within a stage, I don't think, like, there's very few drop-offs I've ever seen like that statistically, going from dropping one. I mean, it's expected in a way, but it's just the fact that he was going from literally 1.5s to 0.9s. It's kind of unexpected, let's just say. Another stat that I'm sure Lion would bring up if he was live on the show is that Methods, I mean, I mentioned it in the video today, but he had a grand total of 0 first bloods throughout the entirety of stage 3, which is just, it's just got to be put out there, and I'll repeat it for measure. 0 first bloods. He had only 5 get engagements for the first kill. He didn't win any of them, which is, it's not great. It's not great. Of course, like, some teams set up so that their AR doesn't get in first bloods, but I mean, still, the entire stage not to get a first blood is pretty tough. So that's one side of things. But still, I don't think you get rid of him. The move that I mentioned that I would have liked to have seen, because I'm just not sold on this SMG duo. Like, I think the Capstone was very impactful at the start of the year, and I think Nero brings a lot of aggression, but just watching Capstone sometimes on the map, I just don't really know what he's doing a lot of the time. And it does make me question the efficacy, wow, I haven't used that word in a while, of the SMG duo. So my theory is, you put TJ to a sub. You say, TJ's run a sub for a long time. I think he can do it. I don't think he's as much of a liability on it as Kenny might be, for example, because TJ's run it more recently, generally more comfortable in that role, I think, throughout his career. I think you can do that role, and then you bring in, like, a better, effectively upgrade the flex, right? Get TJ to lead the SMGs and make sure they know what they're doing on the map, and maybe bring a bit more slaying or, route work or whatever you're going to need. I think that's a better SMG duo than they currently have. I'd probably get rid of Cap, but you could get rid of Nero. I think either is a good option. And then I would ideally bring in Temp. That would be my kind of role to kind of try and just give this team a bit more oomph, a bit more firepower to the end of the year. Try and get Temp off Paris, bring him into this team. A bit of history with TJ, of course, they played with each other in the past. So that's like, that was like a realistic move that you might want to make with this team. But I'm sure there are other options. It's just, I don't think they're necessarily going to do any of them. And if they don't, I don't think I can predict them to make champs based on their current progression. So yeah, Austin, what do you think Boston should do, if anything at all?
Yeah, so besides Paris, this is probably the most inconsistent SMG duo in the league. They both can be great at times. Like, these are like the weirdest 2 SMGs that, like, we've seen them probably start with streaks to start off maps, like, more times than not, and then they end somehow negative still. So they're really streaky. It's like the same thing. Like, a lot of these guys, it's just about finding consistency from day to day. I think the whole roster, like, I think in stage 2, they were propelled by Zinni playing the best Call of Duty he's played since World War II. He was playing tremendously, and now that he's really not having that impact, none of the other players are really stepping up. and that's going to be an issue for this team. And this is no disrespect to TJ. TJ is their best slayer in hardpoint. He has their highest KD. He does by far the most amount of damage per 10 minutes on that team. He's actually up there with the most damage per 10 minutes in the league. He's playing a little bit worse in control, not doing as much, but offensively he's having a lot of impact on offense. He has a 1.0 KD, which doesn't sound like much, but doing that on offense is pretty good. So it's really weird that the two rookies that they have just aren't finding impact like they were before. And that's something I don't know. It's a little bit weird. And it's weird to see Zinni not have the same level of play that he had before. So they're gonna have to identify that. Like one thing clear is their SMGs. They're not getting a lot of assists. So I have a rating called TES. It's the amount of engagements that end positively. So either kills or assists out of all of your engagements, and both of their SMGs are on the lower side of the league. Neuro is only 53% of his engagements are positive, and Capsule only 54. That's down there with LAG and Paris's SMG duos. So it's just not good. It's not good enough. They have to play better this next stage because they are at the tipping point of not making it. And again, I think they still can, because if TJ's playing good right now, that's very good. You just need him to find a little bit more impact in S&D like he had at the beginning of the season. But if he's doing that well in hardpoint, you got to build off of that and have one or two more players step up, which just haven't happened so far. So if they can get that, they might be back on track.
What do you reckon, Graham?
Yeah, I think they definitely have to replace one of their subs. I don't know which one. I don't know which one's the better of the two. I'm leaning towards Cap, but I think Nero does a lot of the dirty work. I know we love talking about that, but I mean, you could almost replace anyone on this team, to be honest with you. I mean, Methods look really good at the start of the season. I'm not big on TJ, but I don't know. It's tough. I feel like the team, they don't play on the same. They're not on the same page. Yeah, they're just kind of playing a league play match with random teammates. That's what it looks like sometimes, especially in control. Especially in control. Like I feel like they're not working as a team.
You can't watch the control. It's just too painful.
It's terrible. But no, I think I just think they're not on the same page, and they're playing a different game. And Nero's moving at 100 miles per hour. No one else is.
He almost looks like he's. Yeah, you can go.
No, you carry on.
I think it almost looks like he's moving too fast for his own good. Like he's trying to do too much for the team, which can be very negative. Like they went 3-12 in stage 3 in respawns. Like that's not good enough. Their SMGs, again, they're not getting a lot of assists. Like so that means their deaths are just deaths. Like there's no one trading that out. They're not getting traded. That's something that's going to have to be addressed either in pacing, like somebody's going to either have to speed up or slow down. You can just see that they're disconnected between some of their players. Like they're just playing at totally different gears, and it's just not clicking right now. And of course, not slaying exacerbates that issue, because then you feel like you have to play faster, and that doesn't necessarily fix the issue. They have some work to do in this off time.
Yeah, I think what Rab said, moving TJ to a sub trying there, I don't know. But that's probably a good idea. I just don't know which one you take out, Nero or Cap, because I'm not sure which one I would rather. Because Nero is good. And we've seen times where he's incredible. I think he was on a Tuscan one time and he dropped like 40-something kills. So he went on an incredible streak. Like he can be good. But it's consistency and being on the same page together and having a sub duo together. And I just feel like that it's just it's the same problem with a lot of these teams. The sub duos are just not on the same page at all.
Yeah, it's why you want to, ideally, this is why you run the trials, right? This is why these couple of week periods can be nice, because you can actually give it a go with both. But if Boston haven't got in on that by now, then they don't have that long to actually figure these things out, right? And Austin, do you know, or I mean, Crone, might well know as well, is there like a roster lock this season as there was previously? Because last year, going into stage 5, they couldn't make a change after stage 5 began. So if they wanted to make any moves between stage 5 and champs, they had to already have those players on their roster so they could sub them in. Is that the case this year? I haven't actually heard anything about it. I don't know if you guys know.
I don't know. I would assume no, but I'm not sure.
I would assume yes. There was one last year. I don't know about the one this year. The reason for that is because you don't want a team qualifying for champs and then just completely revamping their roster right before champs with teams that didn't make it.
True. Yeah.
Because that just makes it unfair for the teams that made it with their original rosters.
They have been in BO4 and before.
Yeah, with like Splice. So I am under the assumption. I honestly don't know. I'm under the assumption that there's a roster deadline and within the next 2 weeks before stage 3 starts, which is why all the teams are probably pushing right now. The caveat to that is that you can always have a sub on your roster and put them in and out during the break. So hopefully teams. That's why I've been saying like teams should. If you think you're going to have an issue or you don't know if this is the roster that is going to get you there, you should sign a sub. It probably would not be too expensive to have somebody for the next 2 months and then go from there. So it will be interesting. I hope for the betterment of the league that that's the case. I don't want teams like absolutely tanking, and then can you imagine if like New York just doesn't make it and then just sells Hydra and Paul to like whatever the 8th seed is, and then it's just
That'd be too bad.
Or like can you imagine the best player from all of the teams that don't make it? You just stick them on the worst qualified team. Like it's just unfair for the teams that go in there. Like yeah, I don't know. So
good banter, I think. I mean, yeah, a good question actually from Sophie Surf in the chat. Like, how many subs are allowed now? Because back in Modern Warfare, you were mandated to have 2 on your team, but I don't know what the max was. I don't know if you're allowed. Oh no, you had 5, weren't you? Yeah, bloody hell, rotated 5. Yeah. So like, what is it? What is it now? Like, are you allowed 2, 3, 4? I don't know.
I feel like we should know these things. They should be published. Should be the handbook.
Yeah, I think
there was a handbook previously, right?
I feel like I should know this.
It used to be a public handbook, but it's not public anymore.
That's true, because I tried to find, because I remember vividly back in Modern Warfare, I used to look at, because there was all this talk about GAs, right, back in Modern Warfare, and the fact that like the CDL wasn't going to allow them anymore with the CDL coming into effect, because in the handbook, there was a line that talked about collusion, and it basically said that collusion is like agreements between pro players outside of the official rules, and they could effectively clamp down on that, right? So I remember talking about that line in the rulebook at the time as being like, wow, they could potentially stop GAs if they want to. But nowadays, I can't find a bloody rulebook. I can't find that line anymore. I can find a rulebook, but it's not as good. I don't understand. Like, you know, I feel like this stuff should be more easily available. I don't know. If we don't know, then
there's a challenger rulebook, but there's no CDL rulebook. It should be on the website. I don't know why it's not.
Yeah, well, exactly. I don't know. So they're allowed some amount of subs between, I'm guessing, 2 and 4.
I would guess probably between 4 and 6.
Really? That many, you reckon? Like on the full roster or on the sub bench?
Full roster. Because if you think last year, which is pretty similar to this year, like LA Thieves, for instance, had 10 people on the roster throughout the year. Same thing with London, actually. They had 10 people on the roster.
Jesus Christ!
Because you got to think.
Can't be far off, can
it? All at once though? Not all at once.
Yeah, because they had Kenny, Slasher, John, and Draws at the end of the year. They had TJ, Hook, and Venom, and
Temp
then
as well. Did you mention Temp?
And I think Temp. Yeah, so they had 8 at once. London had Shawnee Paul, Alex Afro, technically Zed, Zap,
Parasite.
Parasite. Like I mean, it's tricky. I would assume it's between you're allowed probably
just
8
like get rid
to
of
10.
them, and then it's like they don't count anymore. I don't know.
I would assume 8 to 10 roster spots realistically.
Jesus. Imagine that you've fully brought in a sub team. Like New York don't make it, and then I don't know. LA Thieves are like, okay, we're going to buy your entire team on loan, and we're just going to put you on the sub bench. And then if we don't perform well, winners round 1, you're coming in. Man, that'd be crazy. It's not going to happen, but it might be possible. I don't know. It's definitely not possible. Anyway, you know, maybe they'll think about it. Actually, speaking of that, we're going to talk Paris, because this is one of those players that I want to see at Champs in Temp. And like, you know, I was kind of gassing up Temp today in the video, and you got to give credit as well to Gravity. I think he's been doing well on that team. But their SMG duo has just been woeful, right? Like, there's no getting around it. Like, Jimbo and John are routinely 0.5s. Their search and destroy KD is actually, like, another Lion stat here, is just absolutely abysmal. But I think their average search KD through stage 3 is a 0.58 or something. I don't know, something like that. Like, Jimbo has like a 0.58 and John has like a 0.6 or something in search for the stage, which is just like, it's tough. So yeah, apparently Temp might be getting some help. I don't know how much help this is realistically going to be. You got to give some credit to Paris, right, for trying something, because their SMG Joe was the worst in the league. They're going to get rid of John and bring in Johnny, is the going rumor, which is just, you know, the meme potential. Like, you know, we just dropped Omar, the guys just dropped the stage 3 or stage 3 major meme recap, which is absolutely fantastic. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, feel free to do so on the channel. But that's got meme potential written all over it as well. So, look, I don't know. Johnny, bit of drama lately. Talented SMG player from the Challenger side. Rumor maybe earlier this season that subliners were thinking about him when they did the whole royalty swap. It never ended up happening, though. Look, they can, this team, throw a spanner in the works of teams trying to make champs. That is the thing that this team can do. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to win Major 4 or anything. But if they get a couple of upsets against teams that are that need every 10 points they can get their hands on, then they can still have an impact, right? And of course, you know, it's important for Johnny and the guys to prove their worth for future seasons and other teams in the league, I suppose. So yeah, like, I don't know what you guys think about this. And also you got to think Paris, like, the whole Las Vegas thing is coming in. Like, I don't know, fair play for them to try but I think it's a shame that Temp is still going to be on this roster personally, at least if things stay as they are.
Yeah, no. Like, obviously he's had a good year. Obviously their SMGs aren't the best, but sometimes their SMGs do get hung out to dry, like pretty baited. He still had a really good year. I think it's tough because I don't see a clear roster he could just go into, and I don't know if there's a clear roster he can go into and make instantly better. Especially with like the risk that involves in that, you're instantly upheaving all your chemistry that you've built. You're starting from scratch, and it's a risk for most of these midfield teams because there's the only midfield, like, I don't even call Seattle a midfield team anymore, but like they're the only team out of that pack that have made it out, like secured their spot pretty much for champs. The rest of them, you're taking that's a pretty big risk. So I personally wouldn't see that happening. I think it's good on them. I mean, honestly, it's good on Johnny for taking I don't even know why this is a risk, but for taking the chance to join Paris to do good. Because if he does good in the next 3-4 weeks, that pretty much locks him in as a pro player next season. Like, he'll probably start on a pro team. You know, a lot of players didn't want that Paris spot or like were afraid of taking that. I'm happy he took it because I want to see how he does online and on LAN. I want to see how he does in a pro environment because when I look at his stats from the Challengers event, he had a 0.9, which is fine, but he had a 93 Slayer rating, so he's moving pretty fast. He's getting a lot of kills. He did fairly well across all 3 modes for when they were streamed, which was only like I think 1 or 2 series. But I think he's a good player. He you know, I touted him before. It's just experience, getting reps, taking it to the next level, and that's why I actually like that he took the risk. Again, I don't know why it's a risk.
It's just so funny.
I don't think it's a risk. I think you're
player.
taking a chance. You're taking a chance in yourself to prove yourself in the pro league. If you don't prove yourself, we saw what happened to Spart in Modern Warfare. He still worked his way back. It's doable. What I've liked is the only reason why I didn't like Decimate benching himself in the past is so he had a chance to prove himself with that Seattle roster. Obviously, he didn't foresee that happening. He made his own decisions. Like, Tom Gravity came into his roster. He's shown like he had a very good stage this past stage. He finished with 1.09 KD. His non-traded kill percentage is really high. As a main AR, he's doing what he should do on that roster. He's doing really well. He has a 1.21 in control, 1.11 on attack, and he has the second most kills on attack. So he's getting aggressive on the attacking side. He's doing well on that. 78% of his kills are untraded in control, which is the 3rd highest in the league. He's proving that he's like a pro level talent, right? Like, that solidifies your future. If you don't take that risk and join a pro league team, you're never going to be able to do that. So like, I do hope Johnny does good. Like we're gonna see at least a glimpse of it. It could be like Afro from last year, right? It could be when Afro came in at the end of the season, he performed crazy good. Everyone's like, this guy has a future. Boom, he moves on. I do hope that's what happens with Johnny. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you know, it's going to be a good glimpse into his talent level the next 3-4 weeks because they're all, you know, they're not going to just check out because these guys are not 100% solidified in the future as pro league players. So they're going to want to prove that this stage that like we are pro level players.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the Paris Legion roster, the history of the Paris Legion roster. Aside from the starters currently, out of the 15 players that have played for Paris Legion, only 2 of them are still in the league. And one of them is Classic on the bench.
Ooh.
So, I mean like
look,
you said,
Zed and
it is a
Dens, man,
risk.
they've still got a job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Zed's still in the league. Dens is still in the league.
Technically.
I mean, you could argue this though. Like any bottom of the tier team, most of your players are not gonna be in the league for a long time. You could say the same thing about LAG. You could say, like, obviously it's gonna be easier to say that it's not happening with us, with Texas, with, you know, I'm trying to think of teams that have had a lot of success over the years. Like technically Toronto, like those teams are not gonna have a lot of turnover. When you're not finding success consistently, it's like even Seattle before this. Seattle's had a lot of team players that aren't in the league. So I would say like going into the year, a lot of teams thought going to Seattle was like a death sentence for your career at times. And now you've seen multiple players go in there and do really, really well. So who knows, like this Paris team could be decent this year and build off of it. Like I still think Jimbo can be a good player. He reminds me of Nero where he's moving like way too much sometimes just to be aggressive, just so like try to pick up the slack. He does have good opening duel numbers and like he's fast, he has high slaying. Tom and Temp obviously are good ARs. They just need, sometimes they're just a little bit slow. Like the only reason why I say that is like, do you guys remember the clip where it was like where Study was like John, and because like it was on Tuscan in the middle and like Kleenex was in you, just shooting at
Oh yeah,
John for like 30 seconds.
he just walks backwards like.
There was 3 players mid and nobody moved to slide on you. Nobody moved an inch. Everyone just watched John die. Nobody tried to trade him. Nobody tried moving.
There was a guy in the corner there that could have tried to kill him.
Yeah, there was. Like, I'm pretty sure Tom was close. Jimbo was in the corner. Donnie, I don't know where Donnie was. I think he was in the field.
Was behind John, like in that
corner. No one tried to move. No one. He just got left out. Right. He's just dead. There's just no hope. So like,
unlucky son.
Yeah, so like the team does have to like play as a unit a little bit more, and I think they would be, you know, you could see a little bit more out of them. But you know, who knows? They could have like a good stage, and show like some promise in their individual like form, you know.
Yeah, I think someone said technically they could still make champs if like all the stars align. If they win Major 4, they win all their matches, and all these other teams lose. But obviously, the big picture is it's chalked for them. So I don't know why they're making this move, to be honest. Unless John's like retiring or something. But I think he tweeted today.
He wants to keep going. I mean,
yeah.
I'm gonna be real. Like this is a smart move as a GM side. In the past, we criticized Paris for not picking up Pred, Hydra, Sib, right? And they could have got them at any point during that season. If Johnny is legit, right? If he's good, it's the same thing that Toronto did with Scrap. If Johnny is good and you lock him up now, you have him for next year now. He's yours. You don't have to worry about any team coming in and making a bid for him. He is yours. And if he isn't, you can just not do the +1. So I think it's really smart. Take a risk. You know what you have in John. Obviously, it hasn't been enough this season. You really need another stage of that. That's the only reason why they're probably keeping Jimbo. They want to see, like, is Jimbo, like, where is he at for next season? Where's Tom at for next season? Is Johnny a legit talent? Should we? So they're trying to move on early. I think it's a smart move, personally.
Yeah, I saw people questioning Johnny if he was because there's consistency on LAN versus online, and a lot of people ask him to monitor cam, all those types of things.
I will say this: like MC got banned from. If MC was an amateur today, he would be banned instantly. Instantly, yeah. People would think he's the amount of wall bangs I saw the last like 3 years. Instantly banned. Everyone just like he's fucking walling. Get him out of here, right?
The same with Wake and
Wake. All like and this isn't just a Call of Duty thing. In CS, Rops, who just won the major with FaZe, he was everyone thought he was cheating. Like he had to fly to other people's houses to play in front of people
They
because
flew him
people
out
thought
to
he
the
was cheating.
FaZe headquarters so he could
Yeah.
prove himself, and Carrigan was there or something like that.
Yeah, so
Some crazy
it
story.
happens across all esports. It's just how you prove that you are a legitimate talent, or do you kind of like crumble under the pressure? And that's the story of how a lot of these players go. So I'm rooting for
to
him.
be fair, yeah, at the Toronto, didn't he just come off a flight and go straight into the game matches?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
he
sure,
didn't
yeah.
get time to warm up or
Yeah, I
something.
mean-
he got to the venue and they were about to forfeit. So he
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I don't. I'm sure he'll
I
be
give him the
okay.
benefit of the doubt. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Paris Legion next season, they're not even going to be Paris anymore. So Las Vegas, maybe the curse is over. Maybe the curse is on Paris. So hopefully it works out for the boys. But yeah, I hope John can keep something going. It's going to be tough for John, but I don't know. You still see glimpses of a world championship winning player in there, occasionally. So hopefully that works. Let's talk LAG though, because speaking of world champions, got a couple of them on this team. Now the rumor has it that Spart's back in. I'm guessing for Gunless, just based on performance. I know you tweeted out that it's either Gunless or Slasher.
Yeah, I just didn't want to say because I wasn't sure, but I would assume it's Gunless, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense to be. I mean, just looking at the numbers really, and the fact that Gunless, before he left the team early on in the season, had like a 1.05, 1.1, pretty consistent actually, was, I think, their most consistent player, not their most impactful player, but their second best player behind Asim at the start of the year, I would say. Since coming back, unfortunately, he's not been the same player, probably not helped at all by what is probably a pretty torrid team environment. And this has been a thing with teams of some of these players, Slasher, for example, in the past, where when you have success and then the success disappears, there's a very short fuse until that roster gets blown up. And that's probably what's happening here. But the thing is, to me, is that bringing Spart back in for Gunless alongside a HECZ, Slasher, Asim trio that just have not been performing at all the last few weeks doesn't seem to solve anything. I mean, they were bad with Spart after the major. They got rid of him for a reason and brought Gunless back in. And now they're going back to that team that they won the major with, hoping to reignite that success. Like, I just can't imagine that's actually going to work for them. Because I think that the time for that team is gone. But what do you think, Crane? I mean,
I actually think they're making more changes than one. It's not just Spart. I haven't figured it quite out yet, but I think they're making another change. They're trying to. I don't know if they will again. Like you never know what happens. But I think I'm just guessing, but I feel like they would go depending on what the other starting rosters look like and who's benched. They'd probably go after like maybe Vivid. I'm just guessing, maybe like Vivid, Neptune, or maybe even Prolute.
back to LAG, baby.
Yeah, but I think they're making more than one roster change, or trying to, and they should, because I mean, like
100%
you said,
should.
like just bring in Spart back. Yeah, it's just another lateral move if you just bring Spart. So I guess the other question is like, who's the second person you bench? Because I assume they would go for another SMG player. Like, which one?
arguably, who do you think's better? Like better as in like, if they needed to play great this next stage, they would play great. Asim or Hoog?
I don't know. I'm a Asim stan, so I'm kind of biased.
All my money's on Asim, honestly.
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's kind of like just
at their peaks this season. Who's had the higher peak?
Yeah, it seemed certainly, but
I will say Asim's definitely been in a slump.
Think about
he's no doubt in my mind. He's obviously been in the slump. He hasn't played good. I'm just gonna like, look. I thought Spart was instrumental. I said that on the podcast a lot to their run. It seems like when he was on an AR, once they switched back to no Volk, it was not good. I know that the team environment was probably not good, but he finished with a 0.76, lowest in the league. Overall KD, he had a 72 Slayer rating. 50. He only had a 48.8 non-traded kills. Almost, he had more kills traded. Like he got a kill and died right away. Than he got kills and then was able to go do something else. Only 50% of his engagements were positive. His KDA, so like even with assists, he had a 0.84, lowest in the league. His control KD was a 0.58, lowest in the league. His defending KD in control was a 0.48, lowest in the league. Only 34% of his kills were non-traded, lowest in the league. I just don't think that team fit him with an AR. And if they bring him in for one of the other two ARs, I don't think that changes too much. I think it was more of an AR duo thing and a pacing thing. No, I don't know what their moves are. We haven't scrimmed them at all, so I have no clue. But I just hope they aren't making these rash decisions. Like I don't know. I still believe that an ASUM slasher duo would be very good with like you can get 2 more players in there. I want to see like how they go about like this break. It'll be very interesting, to say the least, for like their future because they've been slumping now for a minute, and it's probably not a very good team environment. They've obviously only got, and you take out the major 2, they've only got 60 points across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different opportunities. So like 5 either group stage or majors. They've only gotten 60 points, so it's just not good enough. I'll still stick to my guns there. Like a slasher, ASUM, like Scrap and maybe Neptune, or like Scrap and Fame, Scrap and or maybe Pristini.
Gotta have an
Fame.
SMG that can slay. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like that's why it's like I do rate Asim, and I think that he can be a good player, but he is too. And I also think that he's a crucial player in terms of, I mean, we've mentioned this before in terms of like vibes. As the tournament progresses, he's a player that's going to help you get victories and get you over the line in series that you might not otherwise. But at the same time, you need an SMG that's going to be able to put up numbers. And Asim probably can be that guy. I'm not even sure who can be that guy in this game, right? I mean, I think a lot of my favoritism for Hook in this discussion is just name value, to be honest. I feel like I'm biased towards name value. Maybe there's some value to that, right? But I don't know. It's like if I'm going to bring in a Vivid, let's just say, like I feel like I would prefer to pair him up with a Hook than I would to an Asim, if that's the change I want to make. I have Vivid as my kind of aggro guy and Hook as the second slaying SMG, as it were. So I don't know. I think that there's a question that they have to answer, but if Vivid is on the market for Florida, I think that you probably got to think about it, right? Even though I'm not sure what his relationship is like with the coaching staff on that team, because obviously he had a bit of drama with him last season when they were going to drop him. And well, he apparently asked, but basically he was like, look, this team isn't going to work. Someone's got to give. And then Bibbles and Ricky were like, okay, you're getting dropped. So, maybe we run it back. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, good bit of intel from Crone that maybe more changes are brewing. Wouldn't be surprised, especially with what Florida are up to.
I will say this though, too. Like ASIM was slumping, but he also had a higher KD, like not by much, but he had a higher KD and S&D in control. The only thing that really messed him was a hard point in attacking side on control, because their whole attacking side on control as a team was just abysmal. But like that's the only 2 things that really like messed him. He still had higher non-traded kills, still had a higher damage, still had higher, kills per 10 minutes. They're equal, but in my mind, I like. You have to still value players making the right plays and helping your system be consistent. And that's something like all teams are going to have to look at, not just LEG. I'm talking like all teams. You have to value, like, I wish it's really hard for fans to know this without like, staring at a mini map every match. But I wish teams would value making the right play and making your teammates better over just having a 1.2, getting kills and being a detriment to your team's win rate or win chances, right? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of players that I'm not gonna obviously name names, but there's a lot of players that have good KDs that I think don't make the best team, moves on the map, that are not helping their teams win. But they have a high KD, and that means good for within like our community. So it's like really hard to decide that without
just like Gismo.
staring at it.
Gismo doesn't have the highest KD, but I think he makes the right decisions on the map.
And I think
turn their team
yeah.
around.
And there's players that do that better than others, like Pred. I think Pred makes a lot of great plays in the map and has a good KD. But there's a lot of players that are either way too much, I need to get kills, fuck the objective, or I'm gonna let my teammate slide in first, I will get the kill, and then just kind of like not do anything off of it, and then get another kill. Ooh, I got 2, but you're not doing anything to get closer to the win. So I don't know. That's one of the toughest things to decide. You just kind of have faith. You got to have faith in your front office, which now Call of Duty is starting to have that. And so have faith in your front offices to build rosters that work. So hopefully LAG makes the correct decisions. And because I actually want the midfield. I want it to go down to the last match. I want the last match of the week, which I don't even know what it is. Actually, I'm going to look right now.
I mean, will go down to the major, really.
Oh, yeah.
Like it should probably come down to not necessarily the last match, but like within reason. Like there'll be one team making a losers run that like if they win, their champs hopes are still alive, you know? Like it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Maybe LAG is one of those teams. We shall see.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be crucial for teams building. Like you're going to have to prioritize building off of your system and relying on it, because like that's when you falter, is when you kind of like ditch your system and try to play fast. That's usually the downfall to a lot of teams. They kind of ditch their system, try to match aggression or try to play other teams' games. That's just something you're going to have to be consistent on. And you know, that's something why I loved like what Kismet brought to the team. I loved that he was really, really good with Crim. Like they took the system, he did the dirty work. There's a lot of good players like that, and that's I value those guys a lot. Like I always think like Draza's a good guy. Vivid I think is more of a pacing issue, but he's still doing a lot of good things on the map. Bance is one of the crucial guys. I think he's great. He should be like the poster man for that. Like he just had a like what a 0.96 I think, or 0.93, but it's an extremely impactful 0.93. He allows the other players on his team. He allows Cammy. He allows Insight. He allows Kleenex to be better, right? And that's something you got to also put value in that, like making your teammates better, being a facilitator on the map as well, getting spawns, doing the dirty work, taking the long routes that take 30 seconds where you're not engaging anybody, so your teammates can get better spawns to engage people faster. So. Yeah, that just gets overlooked. That's my little rant there.
I agree with that. I feel like the thing is, a lot of the times pros will mention what you've mentioned and be like, yeah, the fans will understand. But then the pros will very quickly look at the KD charts, you know? So that's it's my little add-on.
It's very hard, and it's very, like, what's the word for this? Like, I might be even seeing it wrong, or it's just the way I see it, or like, it's really hard to just look at a mini-map and tell who's doing the right and wrong thing. Especially when games are like chaotic with spawns and stuff and like breaking it down. And like you never know what a team's system is. You never know on like what they're thinking on the inside. It's just it's really hard, but it's like something where if you dive deep, like more deeper into the minimap, you can pick up some things and you can see a lot more things. And I don't know, that's like the next level of the game, and that's like fun, but on like a surface level, it's easier to understand like basic numbers. So yeah, it's something to see if it gets more like complex as years go on, you know.
Agreed. Thoughts, Crone, or we're going to talk OpTic real quick? Because let's just crack on with that, I think. Yeah. So, like, I don't know exactly what's going on with iLLeY. We heard a few days ago that basically he was getting a procedure done to his thumb, and after that he was going to be okay. And the rumor has it over the last couple of hours that indeed he's going to be good, and he's coming back into practice tomorrow. I don't think Rambo specifically said practice, but he's going to be able to start picking up the controller and play again tomorrow. Now, whether that's going to be the A-OK thumbs up, or whether that's, you know, still potentially issues return, I guess we'll find out over the coming days. But they seem confident it's going to be the case. Zuma did reveal something rather interesting, because we haven't really heard much about exactly what it was. Was it assist? Was it whatever? Bone spur, as Crimsix initially thought. Zuma said that from what he's heard, it was assist, that he's had drained, I'm guessing now. And potentially, if it recurs, then he's going to need surgery to get rid of it after the season. Which is, I think that Zuma was... Like, I think Zuma's issue with his cyst was like that it was kind of in his wrist where the tendon was, and therefore it restricted his movement of his thumb. Whereas this thing that iLLeY has being kind of where it is in his thumb shouldn't really impact his movement. It should more be like just effectively painful and uncomfortable, I'm guessing, which I think iLLeY was experiencing even back to kind of Major 2. So... Look, hopefully he's back, and if he has to get something done after the season, we'll see about that, but hopefully it's okay. I'm just hoping that when iLLeY does return, as seemingly he will, hopefully he will, it's not like a Gunless situation, right? Because, of course, they've had to have probably longer off practice than they would like without this, you know, with the team as it is. Like, I guess they're not practicing today. They probably, you know, maybe they'll practice with him tomorrow, but even then they've lost probably a few days from what they would have had. And yeah, I think there's just a concern that if iLLeY doesn't reach those kind of Major 1 levels, then fans are going to be down his neck, right? Because we always talked about before the season even began that iLLeY is the only scapegoat this team can have realistically, and now that he's returning with a lot of pressure on his shoulders to perform after the team kind of fell a bit flat with Prolute at the Major, with champs around the corner, that I'm just hoping that he can perform at a good level, because we've seen what happened with Gunless. He had to step away for a bit, comes back, didn't really perform. If the same thing happens to iLLeY, then I just know how the fans are going to be. So, what do you think about this, Crone? I'm hoping for the best here. Like, we want all the teams at full force going into champs, is at the very least.
Yeah, I mean the fans are cutthroat. We all know that. As soon as iLLeY drops 0.8, they're going to be down his throat. But I think if Rambo's talking about it, he's probably pretty confident that iLLeY's fine to play. And I hope that he'll be fine to play, because, like you said, like, we want all the teams, especially a team like OpTic, you want them to be at full force, right? I don't know what happens with Prolute here though, like, because I guess do they let him go? If another team wants him, do they let him go, or do they say, well, we kind of need you because if something happens to iLLeY, we need you back?
I think they want to keep him to the end of the season, but I think that's kind of what has been implied. But
what if a team like, Gorillas or Thieves or something comes in and says, "Hey, we want him. Can we have him?" Like, what do you say? Is it OpTic? Do you think they'll say no?
I think they would say no.
Yeah,
but they'd say no until the end of the season. They're pretty sure they've said that, like, at the end of this year, he's going to be free to go wherever he wants. But until then, I don't know. They probably want him at least for. You just never know, do you? It's so sketchy, and they can't find a better sub. I don't think there's a better sub, really.
Nah, I don't think so either.
But money talks.
I mean, personally, if I'm Prolute, though, do you say yes to a team that's slumping that might not make champs? Or do you say, like, I'm going to stay on OpTic, get that juice for another couple of months, and there is a chance I can play champs with OpTic if, God forbid if something does, like, continue. Like, I actually do hope iLLeY's at 100%. I would rather play OpTic at full strength and have that be a great series. And I want him not to have any long-term issues, short-term. I want him to be A-okay, honestly. But, like, I think if I'm Prolute, I'm probably putting my bet in staying with OpTic for now and not going to, like, the Gorillas, for instance.
That's good.
Unless you have, like, a higher tier team, which, again, like, it's really tough. You're probably not going to get any of the top 4 teams. So is it worth that risk right now? So that's just my thought process. But I'm sure if he went to OpTic and said, like, yeah, I really, really want to take this chance, this opportunity, I'm sure they would probably accommodate that. That's just how they've been. But I'm sure from their perspective, they're probably thinking, like, look, like, if this is just a short-term fix for iLLeY and something does get irritated and it comes back and he has to keep draining it or doing this and that, and we really want a capable substitute for any, terrible case that we get, like, Prolute is our guy, that's probably they're thinking, yes, 100%, we're having him till the end of the year. Probably even longer, maybe, unless he gets signed next year.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I don't know. I think that you're probably right. Like, if I was Prolute, it makes sense to maximize the OpTic Gs and then try and get a spot next season, because he's got goals and ambitions higher than being a substitute for OpTic, right? I'm sure, like, he wants to have his shot in the league, and if it looks like iLLeY's going to be okay, which I think he will, hopefully, then he'll probably get a spot elsewhere. So we'll see how it goes. I think he's definitely a capable player, as we've most certainly seen. Let's do power rankings. I think this is we've got power rankings. We've got the CODLe thing that I'm sure you guys are going to enjoy at the end of the show. We're about an hour in, so perfect time to do power rankings. Oh, it's already up, Omar. We'd just love to see it. So, okay, power is already down there with the D tier. Obviously, you've got the tiers flipped. Omar should be the S tier, but you guys know how it is. So, like, we've got 11 other teams to rank, and I think that most of the tiers are kind of straightforward. Yeah, there we go. But I think that kind of, like, when it gets to the top tiers, I think we've seen a lot of different opinions on this, actually. So I think we should just dive in. Also, the question is, like, how do we consider, like, what their teams are going to be? Or, it's kind of tough to say on some of the teams. You don't really know. So anyway, if you guys have the stream up, you can see what we're doing in real time. Don't know if you can see that, Crone.
Yeah.
But good stuff. So I guess we'll begin at the bottom alongside Paris. And I don't know, do any other teams deserve D tier with Paris? Because the way LAG have been playing lately, I would argue probably yes. But surely if they make a change, they get a bit better.
I don't think we should consider changes yet. Like, maybe that's something we can do after, like,
post major
yeah. Well, we can probably just do that once stage 4 actually starts, because then we'll know exactly who's going where. But for now, I think we should, if we're playing it how they just did in like their current form right now, LEG is probably safe to say they're right there along with Paris.
I agree.
Yeah, they're pretty much as much an easy win. Boston, I don't think Boston are quite there. I think Boston are like bottom of C. But
Yeah,
what do you think?
I would say I think a little bit better, tiny bit better. Like
Yeah,
not
I
much.
can't put them in D just because they were arguably they were in a series where they could have easily won if the league reset and had better reset rules.
Yeah, true.
They could have been in winners bracket to start the major, and then who knows from there. That's a completely different story. The fact that they started in losers and whatever, but I would have them slightly better than those two teams.
Yeah, agreed. So LAG just above Paris in D, Boston in C. I mean, where do we go next? Like, I'm looking at probably London in that
Yeah, I
C
think London too. I
tier,
was
just
thinking
above
that, yeah.
Boston. I think probably the 9th best team. I think the London are still better than Boston. And yeah, we're considering this before changes. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably justified right now. They're playing like a C tier team. I don't know if we need too much discussion on it, but what do you think?
I'll say C tier, but they have potential to be at the top of B. I think that's fair to say with Gismo, at least online. I don't want to call them an online team. I'm just based off track record. They do good online, and they're a very aggressive team. They play kind of like how we do. They're very aggressive. So if they can get to that level, like that, I mean, currently you can't say they've been better than C this past major, but potentially they could be top of B if everything goes like how they like to for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay, I agree. This is, I think, where it gets kind of interesting because, I think the next teams in discussion are Florida, Minnesota, and New York. And
Yeah, but they can kind of you kind of float them between B and C. That's tough.
yeah, I agree. Like, who is next worst here? Because I think New York got rather harshly done by in some of the other rankings I saw. Like, I would put New York B tier personally. I don't
Didn't
think.
New York go map 5 with Seattle, who ended up winning major?
Yeah, they went game 5, round 11.
Yeah.
They probably should have won it. They had a 4v3. Now, that's ifs and buts. Like, they lost to London. They shouldn't have done. But you also can't forget that New York beat OpTic like not long ago online, which is very impressive. And they won the Pro-Am. So to me, New York are not as bad as a C-tier team. Yes, they don't turn up at majors, but they still have, like, I still think they're a decent team. They're like a middle of the pack team that can do some serious damage, as they did at the Pro-Am, and even against the top dogs. So I don't think they deserve C. I would put them solidly B. But if that's the case, then do we have another C tier team? Because I don't think Minnesota can be C tier after they're 5-0. The only team that could be C tier is Florida Mutineers, right? And do they qualify as C tier after they beat OpTic, but then they lose to everyone else? So I don't know if they're quite C tier.
I don't know if we could do this, but honestly, I wish we had an F tier to move down Paris and LAG, and then you'd move Boston and London D. And then honestly, because I don't think they're a B tier team, like because that would put them just below probably what, like OpTic, Seattle, like I don't know. I don't know if they're that close, but I think they're better than London and Boston. You know what I mean?
We can do it. We can do it. We have the technology.
do it.
The
Oh, we can do
technology
it?
exists.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I mean, like keep all the teams in F for now. So like that's like where the team base is, but just move like there you go, actually.
This could work.
Like 100 IQ out of
shift
Omar here,
everything
man.
down. Oh, this is fantastic. Yeah, everything gets shifted down. And then I agree actually with that because I think Florida are between B and C personally.
Yeah, it's
Like, I
really
think-
weird how like tight but not tight the midfield is.
Because they're not as good as like Minnesota or New York, I don't think. But they're better than the teams below them. They're the classic, it's the bloody classic thing we always say about Florida. They're effectively they're like the decent team gatekeepers, right? They're always sitting there around like top 6, top 8. Wherever the decent teams are above them, they sit right below. And if you beat them, you might be good enough to be in that tier. So if there's more good teams, they get worse. If there's less good teams, they get better. That's how it works. If there's very few actually good teams, they can be top 4. If there's a lot of decent teams, they can be top 8. There we go. I've sussed it out, boys. Anyway.
Omar, I would move down LAG with Paris and then move London and Boston down the D. I think that's like fair to say.
Yeah.
Because like D, you could argue you had some success, but failed at having a great stage. F is you just had a terrible stage. C could be you had some success at some point, but still didn't end up as a top team. Which I mean, you could argue that's probably where New York, Florida, and Paris, or New York, Florida, and London, or
Minnesota,
New
no?
York. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Jeez,
There we go, baby,
I'm
we got
stumbling
there.
over my words here. But because like all three of those teams had some sort of success. Like obviously, New York and Minnesota did really well in the group stage, faltered at the actual LAN at the major. So like that's probably safe to say no.
I think so. So I reckon Florida in C tier, and then above them we've got New York, Minnesota.
Would you have New York or Minnesota higher?
It's actually kind of tough, to be honest, because I kind of agree with what CODLe says that like Minnesota, because he wants to put them in the C tier, which is maybe justified just because they can't win on LAN, but they did go 5-0 and they 3-0'd FaZe. I've got to give them their credit for that. It was online, but like I've got to give them credit for that victory, and I think that they're. Despite losing on LAN, they lost Game 5 to Thieves. They got bodied by Toronto, but they did 3-0 Boston. So, to me, they're a B-tier team. Now, if I had to take the head-to-head right now between Minnesota and New York, I mean, it's not really about head-to-head. The way I think about power rankings is like, if there's an event tomorrow, what's the order of percentage chance of winning? Effectively, is how I think about it sometimes. And yeah, who would do better is another way to look at it. And in fairness, Minnesota got top 8, New York got top 12. But I feel like it's actually tough to call between these two. But I might, if I had to take I don't know, man. What do you think, Crane? I can't actually decide.
Should Thieves go in B as well? If we're doing
Good
that?
question. I don't think Thieves deserve A, do they? They definitely don't deserve A.
I don't think they deserve A. So they should be in B as well.
Yeah, they should be here, 100%. That's a good point. So now we've got, we have 4 teams left, which is correct. So what's the order here? LA Thieves are the best of these lot?
Yes, I would do LA Thieves, Minnesota, and New York. The only reason why I would have Minnesota over New York is one, Minnesota went perfect in the group stage. They beat us. They did lose to LA Thieves at the major, but they beat Boston 3-0, and then they lost to Toronto. So, and New York only went 3-2 in the group stage, and then they lost to Seattle, and then they lost to London. So, like the way I look at it is Minnesota had slightly better performances at both. Obviously a little bit better at online, but yeah, that's why I would have them there. And LA Thieves, I still think LA Thieves does a lot of good things on the map. It's just their slaying is just not there sometimes, and it's very weird. I always say, like, they have a lot of potential. They do a lot of good things. It's just sometimes they just don't have the slaying to like match their smart play that they have. Like Envoy had a 0.8 in hardpoint, and Kenny had a 0.87. Draws only had a 0.96 in hardpoint. You go over to the S&D, Octane had a 0.85, Kenny had a 0.87. You go over to Control, and they are all hovering around 1. It's like they just need a little bit better slaying to make their system work better, and I think they would be up there with like Toronto, you know?
Yeah, LA Thieves are the Mercedes AMG Patronus of the CDL here. Like, they're just bouncing around all over the place. The best of the rest team effectively behind the top 4 and inconsistent results. So there you go. So yeah, I agree. I'm putting them top of B, effectively significantly worse than the teams above them, but good enough to beat the teams below them, or let's just say outplace the teams below them on a consistent basis. So, okay, here we go. Now, the question is, do we have an S-tier team? Because the teams above them are FaZe has to be the number 1 team. There's no... I think so, at least. You can put maybe Seattle there if you want to be kind of crazy, but I don't really think you could justify that after one weekend. I think the FaZe is still generally the team to beat, especially given what we've seen from LAN so far this season, that you can't put... You put stock in victories, and Seattle have had this coming, I think. We predicted them... Well, I didn't predict them to win, but you, Crone and Lion, both predicted them to win because they'd had it coming. It wasn't like LAG that it came out of nowhere. But I still think FaZe are number 1. Then you have to choose between Seattle. I think Toronto are kind of clearly the 4th, but people have had different perspectives on whether Toronto should be 3rd. But I think that having them above OpTic is a bit too much. as yet, just because Toronto really have just had one good event. And they look good stage 2. They got back into form. Their Search and Destroy has been good, but I think justifying them over OpTic is difficult. And the Seattle, I think, are quite clearly number 2. I think you have to put them above OpTic. I mean, OpTic are back-to-back top 6s. The question is, what tiers do these teams go in? Because I know that you said a little bit ago, Austin, that you don't think there is an S-tier team. I was going
to say that too.
Has your mind changed on that?
Yes. Short answer, yes. So when I said that, I watched my team play very, very, very individualistic. I can't even say the word. I'm struggling today. But they played like individuals and not a team versus LAG, and we got punished for that. Now, when we just lost to Seattle, I was actually really hyped because we were playing good. Seattle was just a better team that day, and like that's a good thing to have. Like we didn't lose the game ourselves. We just got beat by a really good team that day. If I were to ask everybody who's going to be in the grand finals of Major 4, 90% of you, 95% of you would have our team in the grand finals, which, you know, obviously it would be very different for who you have winning. But if you said who's going to make the grand finals, 95% of you would have like Atlanta in, which is why I would say we're in the S tier. And looking at, you know, major placements, we have the highest average placement, obviously by far, because we are second. We are now have a really comfortable lead in the point standing. We this game's had a lot of just random placements, and ours has been really consistent in the double elimination brackets at least. So yeah, that's just my pitch for why we're S. I do understand teams still are on this no S tier because we haven't won in the grand finals. And I do understand that. For the rest of it, I do have Seattle above Texas because I think Seattle right now, in OpTic's current form, because I don't know how iLLeY's going to play. He hasn't played a lot lately, and that team's going to change chemistry. Right now, Seattle is very, very good. And I don't want to discredit OpTic because everyone's going to say, oh, they're 5-0 against you. I still think they're a very good team. I just think they've lost a lot of momentum that they had at the beginning of the stage. Obviously, due to no fault of their own, but they've lost a lot of momentum. No one can say they can't. They haven't. And it's just about how fast they can get back up to the same page with iLLeY. And maybe it's like literally a week. Maybe it's not, but like we won't really know. That's why I got to have Seattle over them. And then Toronto's been actually a good revelation. You know, little fun fact is LA Thieves and Toronto actually have very high average placements this year. LA Thieves has actually gotten better each placement as the majors went along. I think they went top 8, top 6, now top 4. And if trend continues,
win CHAMPS.
yeah, they did top 2 at the Pro-Am, so you never know. They might be right at the cusp. So like
top 4 at the kickoff, I think, as well, maybe.
Yeah, so actually, even though they haven't had the successes that people have wanted, they've still actually have had kind of decent results over the year.
I'll give them that.
Yeah, so that's why I think we have a very clear top 5, and kind of like you can put them in different tiers that you feel fit. But,
what do you reckon, Chrome?
I saw something on Reddit after the major, and someone said that the best team in the league is the team that's playing FaZe in the finals, which I thought was hilarious. But that being said, I still think FaZe is above everyone else, and I agree with Austin.
Do you see much join them? Because that's my final. I agree with this entirely. The only question is whether Seattle also S, which I
have them.
I don't think so.
I would say
how it's set now is how I would have it too.
Yeah, I would have it like this.
Yeah.
If Mac didn't get sick at stage 2, and I'm telling you, it would have been us versus them in the finals. I'm so positive of that. I would have them in S. If they made multiple grand finals, 1-1, I feel like that's. It's really tough to argue having 2 S tier teams because you kind of want that to be 1, but I feel like they are very, very close. They've had such a good run this year. I honestly can't like understate that. I don't even. Jeez, I'm struggling today, but. Everyone thought they weren't going to have a good year. You know, they had their struggles. I know we were talking at the beginning of the year that them in London, because they took the same strategy pretty much. They had one person that played a couple years, like 1 or 2 years, and then they had 2 rookies. And we said at the beginning of the year, like they probably won't be good at the beginning of the year. They're going to have growing pains. They're going to learn the most when they have disappointing results, and then they're going to be stronger at the end of the year. I would argue that Seattle's disappointing result was when Mac got sick and they got eliminated when they thought they should have made a grand finals. They learned a lot from that. It was a good reality check. They came back this next stage. They performed the best I think I've seen them play all year, and they still have that momentum to carry into because it's been a 2-week break, but I still think they'll have a chance to like rebuild on that momentum for stage 4. So I think if they make another grand finals in the next major, I would have them in S because that's a bigger challenge than people like think it is.
I agree. I like our tier list as it is. I think that just because if this was maybe a Cold War type game, then you might be able to give them enough credit on just one victory. But given it's Vanguard, like I don't think you want to get ahead of yourself too much. And as Zen says, like it's not long ago that they were getting bodied by 540 and Silly at the Prime Classic, right? So, you know, there's always, they've turned a corner, but I'm going to need to see a good stage for them if they, you know, they want to guarantee that status as the S tier. So I honestly think we've nailed this, to be honest.
I will say one other thing too is this is probably the closest top 3 we've had in a minute. Like the top 3, like I'm talking Cold War, Modern Warfare. We never really had like a good grouping of top 3 at one time. You know, we had times last year where it was like Chicago, us, and Dallas, but Dallas was kind of losing to us. And you had the time where Florida was up there with a couple of teams. But like this is a good grouping of 3, and if OpTic like rebound right away with iLLeY, like it's actually very promising. I love it when 3 teams are fighting, like 3 strong teams are fighting for a title.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's tough. People are always going to say that, like, okay, team that doesn't win, it can't be in a tier of their own, as Hitman says, which I think is a fair enough assessment. But at the same time, my thought is always like, if there was an event tomorrow, who's most likely to win? And FaZe are most likely to win by probably a bit of a margin. So, and I think it's going to be the same story once we get a major 4. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thanks for joining us for that one. The final thing we're going to do today is www. Well, I don't know if it's exactly what the URL is, but basically it's CODLe. It's Wordle, but it's COD edition, and it's going to be a play-along thing. You guys can give us what you think in the chat. And so, oh wow, here we go. The transition's coming through. CODLe comes up. Wow, absolutely superb. Now it's actually 6 letters, I believe, not 5. Oh no, it's 4. Okay, starting with 4. Okay, very interesting. So so here we go. You guys can see this on stream, yeah? Like so we can play along as a team here. Okay.
I never played Wordle though, so I don't know how this works.
Okay.
Oh my God,
it's very easy to learn. It's very easy to learn, Crone. The idea is that we choose a 4-letter map. Like, I mean, if it's raid, it'll be kind of boring, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's raid. We choose it, or like Rust, maybe, right? We choose
evac.
A 4-letter map, or evac. Yeah, okay. Well, we sort 6 tries to get it. Dome. There's many options here.
Ooh.
And the idea is, let's put in one that it's not going to be, so we can like teach Crone how it works. Like, should we go? Like, what do you think? Evac. Let's get evac. I like that.
If it's evac, I'm at.
If it's evac, then fair play. Okay, we're locking an evac. Look how good this is. Look at the quality of the production on the stream. Okay, so you hit enter, and it should show us which letters we've got in the right place, which in the wrong place. If it stays black or blank or whatever, like grey, then that letter is not in the word we're looking to get.
So do we get 6? Do we get 6 chances?
We get 6 chances to get it. Yeah. So, okay. Wait, what happened here? We want to lock it in. It's not final answer. Oh, it's not in the dictionary. Okay.
It's not even an option.
It's not even a word. Okay, so it can't be that one. What's the
do Rust? Just do Rust.
Yeah, maybe Rust, because I think okay, let's try Rust. Funny, it's not in the dictionary. Could be Dome or something. So, is that in the dictionary? Okay. Oh, well, Rust is here. Let's go. We got it. Okay. Wow,
oh damn.
Superb. No way. I wanted it. We should have guessed raid. We actually got it at number 1. Okay. Anyway, they said that was easy one. They said that was easy one. The way it works, Chrome, is that like based on if we'd have put in raid, it would have said that R was green as being in the right place, and then the other letters, because they're not in it, it wouldn't have said. Okay, it's gonna get harder. It's getting harder. We got up to 5 now. Bang that in number 1. I mean, okay, 5-letter. So really, you want to think about players that have like a lot of vowels.
We're doing players now.
Yeah. Ooh,
players as well. Damn.
Wait, who made this?
Do
did we
I?
make this, or did some random guy make this?
No, we made this.
Okay.
Made this.
Okay. I was gonna say, because I mean, iLLeY is probably on the.
Devs and Omar, right?
We got to start with Scump, right? We got to start.
Oh no!
Yeah,
do AHECZ. Do AHECZ, because you would have the A.
Ooh, I like that. That's good.
AHECZ.
That's good. I like that a lot. AHECZ is good. We get the A and the E. Okay. Let's send it. Is it in the dictionary? Oh wow. Okay. Damn.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
So, bro,
interesting.
is it what's going
So
on?
A, C, and E are in the word, but not in those spots.
Okay,
Damn,
I
okay.
Yeah, I get
So
it.
I always
I get
think
it. I get it.
T straight away. Does that work? Damn, there can't be that many that work like this. Maybe the E and the A are after each
At the
other.
end.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of. Okay, a BZ doesn't work because it doesn't have a C in. That's interesting with the C, I feel like. Now, this should be
Yeah.
easy, I swear. I feel like the E and the A should come next to each other. But we could probably think about this forever.
Damn, I thought like clean, but it's clean X.
True,
I was
true.
thinking lace, but it can't be lace filled.
Damn, that's a good point. Lace is another good one. Damn, I'm gonna need some help from the chat here. We could always like chuck another
Could it be
one in.
Bents?
Oh,
Bants.
Bants is good.
Bants.
Bants
Oh, the
works.
chat with the
Bants
save,
works.
bro. Chat
Bants
with the
works.
save.
There can't be that many options that work like that.
Lock that in. Chat with the 100 IQ. I love that.
Man. How do we not think about that? Oh, disappointed we didn't get that ourselves. That's good though. That's good.
That's
good
a
job,
WAT
chat.
right there. That's a chat. That's
that's
a big W for the chat.
Yeah, let's
To be
go.
fair, I wasn't reading the chat. I didn't
No, we
even
should have
have
got
it up.
that. Yeah, no, well, I know we were thinking of not reading the chat, but I feel like it would. They'd get it before us, and they would just be sitting here like plonkers. Okay, this is where it gets hard. We've got 6 letters now for a gun in COD history. Is this like any? Oh, Vesper's a good starting point.
Yeah, that is.
I was thinking of a lot of Black Ops 3 ones. Like I was thinking Dredge. I was thinking Brekkie.
I don't even know what those are.
Ricky.
But well, it's the 48 Dredge, I guess. It's got a V in it. Damn.
It's got to narrow it down to like.
It's
2
only
options.
got one E. Okay, apparently this is hard though, this one. Okay, it can't be the vector because it has an S and the V and the E aren't in the right place. So we can think any gun in COD history here. Is like legit any gun in COD history? Like is it competitive guns though, Mo? Or any gun. Damn, okay. Oh, the Shiva, maybe.
Oh, that's a really good one.
That is a good one. I love that gun too.
I mean, I think it's got to be the Shiva, no? Is there anything else that works?
That's got to be it, right?
We got to try.
There's not many V guns, but there's a lot of guns in COD history.
I
we
like
got to lock it in, no? There's no other one that could work, surely. We got to try it. That's for sure going to be it. SHIEVA. IE. I think. Is it IE or is it EI?
Nah, that's how you spell it.
Hey, come on, boys. Come on.
Is that it?
That was a good one. That was a good one for the boys right there. Yeah, well, I love the Shivo, man. You know,
yeah,
you know me. That's my
I love it
right there.
I like this a lot. This is fucking hard.
This is really good fun. We should do more of these, 100%. Like, because we can do a lot of this. I think there's also a link that you guys can maybe you know, like have a good time with as well. So anyway, that's the show. We thought we'd just try that out, something a bit different to do on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It was fun playing along. And if you guys enjoyed it, we'll certainly do more of them. That's the only ones we prepared today. But we can do more. And other similar things. We've got other ideas, and we are for like similar interactive stuff we can do as well.
I like that a lot. Stuff. That was fun.
Let's take a few questions from the chat. I mean, we've been going an hour and 20 or so. If you guys have any questions, ideas, I think I saw some earlier that we didn't get to on like what Pristini might do, for example. Like, I guess we'll just throw that open right now while people get a couple of questions in. Like, what do you expect to happen with Pristini? Because he's trying to make a return. It's kind of interesting. Like, he subbed in for you guys and then afterwards said that he was going to come back. And then since then, he hasn't really done that much. Well, he has done stuff. Like, he's been in challenges, but like he took him a bit of time to get back into the groove. You know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah, he qualified for the elite. No, he qualified for the elite. He placed top 6 at the LAN. He had the third highest KD at the LAN. He had a 1.14 overall. Yeah, I was actually really surprised. He had a 1.56. He had the highest KD in control for streamed matches. It's really tough because it's only stream matches, but he played really, really well. He also was in the last elite too. So he's only been playing for like a month and a half, and he top 6 at a LAN and 2 elites. So I think that's pretty good for not playing for pretty much a whole year. So personally, I was actually really excited. He switched over to a a flex role, which I told him. I mean, obviously he knows this too. I told him I think he's one of the best flex players. He has one of the potential to be one of the best flex players in the league. Because when he plays as SMG, he gets very like selfless. It reminds me a lot of Vivid. Like he's really selfless. He just loves to try to help out the team as much as he can. Then he gets really unconfident. Like he gets in his head and he thinks he's doing bad, even though he's doing pretty good for the team. But he personally thinks he's doing bad because his numbers aren't as good. That's why I like him on the flex, because he's very aggro. He's not going to play for kills. He's going to do what he needs to do for the team. He's very aggro, plays very, very well. So, and people forget in Black Ops 4 he was the Maddox player, because Simp and Abizi were on the SMGs, our studios were on the ICR, so it was him and Clay on the Maddoxes, and I thought he was really well there. Same deal with an IW, same deal with actually before that. He was always an AR player. So I hope he kills it for the rest of the season. Does really, really well, and I hope honestly next season he has a lot of interest to come back, because I remember he said that at the end of last year he wanted to take a year off to like mentally reset. I think that's actually very good for veterans. It's a risk though to get back into the league, but I feel like he's actually had more success so far in the challenger scene than we have seen for some veterans, bar Major Maniac, who came in and literally won an open. But Mike is just a fucking animal who does that. He did that same thing last year, so. Yeah, that's kind of where I see it going for him, hopefully.
Agreed. Let's choose a couple of questions. The one I quite liked here was every stage a team has gone 5-0. Who do we think is going to be this time around? I guess it's been FaZe have done it, Minnesota have done it. Did OpTic do it?
Texas.
Pretty sure OpTic did Texas it as well, right?
Yeah, and CHU.
Yeah, exactly. So this time, I don't know. I was looking briefly at Seattle's schedule, and I kind of want to pick them. They do have to play FaZe, but they also play. Firstly, they play Paris. They then play Boston, then New York, then Minnesota, then FaZe. So I think that's doable. And Seattle, they're the FaZe killers. So I'm taking Seattle 5-0. But there's other options, because I think Toronto might have a chance as well, but they have a tough schedule. But it could be a team out of nowhere.
No one goes 5-0.
It's a
Pretty
fair
safe
call.
bet, honestly. It's gonna be a really competitive stage. I won't say like our team, because it's like a little like cliche.
You've already done it, so come on. It's not.
I mean, Seattle's a good shout. It's just honestly like they have a tough matchup versus us, and obviously we just lost to them twice. So I think we're gonna be hungry to kind of take that one back.
Thieves, Toronto.
We play every. I swear to God, we play the same teams every stage, man. We literally have the same schedule every stage. I swear to God, we always play Ultra. We always play LA Thieves. We always play Seattle. I swear it's always the same. Maybe I'm crazy, but we have a tough one. We do have a tough one. I mean, who knows? Maybe Texas, when they get iLLeY back, have like a good honeymoon phase, do pretty well. But this one might be the only one. That's actually probably a good call. This one might be the only one where there is no 5-0 team.
Pick out a question, lads. Then we'll close out the show.
Sign Scrappy next year. I mean, who knows?
That one's really tough.
To see. Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't know.
Say pretty much 9 teams at this point.
I would like them to go to like Thieves, maybe. I don't know. We've only seen them good on one game, so it's kind of tough whether they want to make their chance on them.
I like the as Modern Warfare is 2 years. Do you think this could heavily impact players' mental and/or performance? Do you think this could lead to more dynamically changing team roster lineups? Honestly, I think that would lead to less crazy roster lineups, because whether players agree or not, there are players that are better at certain games and worse at others. It's always been said like Classic is always like a fucking beast at like was it Treyarch games or IW games? It was one or the other. Same thing with like Saints was always like crazy at I think IW games. But with something being stable for 2 years, by the second year you're gonna be able to have, because like the problem with like scouting amateurs, for instance, right? This is why I'm so like you need to have amateurs and pros playing against each other early on in the season, because if an amateur has a good second half of the season, like right now, it's way harder for you to get picked up because rosters are going to be more stable. They're way less stable at the beginning of the seasons. You're able to have a higher chance of making it on. When it has 1 year gap and then the next year on the same game, it gives you a chance to say, like, this is my resume from year 1. This is where I'm at right now. And you have a way higher chance because it's the same game. People are going to be like, okay, you just had a phenomenal last 6 months. Let's take a risk on you.
But if you go into a new game, like as you just said, Scrap next year, who knows if Scrap's gonna be good next year? So actually, I think you're not going to see as many crazy roster changes constantly. You're going to see more roster changes that you say like, oh, that makes sense. You're not going to see like wild ones that come out of like left field. As the side of mental, I honestly just think it depends on how good the game is. If the game is decent, if it's stable, and if it's supported throughout the year, I don't see why it would impact players' performances. You have people. I mean, Valorant's been being played for 2 years. CS has been played, this current one, CS:GO, since 2013.
12,
So
I think. But
yeah, so I don't think that impacts playing the same game every day because there's the meta's constantly changing. I they're not going to have a game and not touch it for 2 years. They're going to be trying to change stuff. At least I hope so.
we'll
Knock
see
on
about
wood. Performance-wise, though, like you will see players go up and down. Of course, it's still Call of Duty. It's still different like motivation aspects and teamwork aspects, chemistry, and map pool. I really hope map pool dramatically shifts throughout the season.
That'd be
But
big.
I want to get to a point. I want to get to a point where we're subbing one map in every single major, like one map in, one map out, so it's constantly getting fresh. The thing I liked about CS is like you would have like Train come in and then come out, and Catch come in and come out, Inferno. I like that personally.
Maybe.
I want that to be something Call of Duty has.
They
so
did that
yeah,
in AW, didn't they? Just bringing maps and
Yeah,
all over
they
the
did.
place.
So many, man, back then. I'm
Yeah.
sure Lime would be talking about it if he was on.
Yeah, and players don't like. I won't say players are not in love with this game. There's some aspects of it they don't like. I think when next year comes, I'm really hoping. I really am. Like, there's a lot of positive things that are coming out right now. Like players were obviously just kind of came and tested it. I have talked to people about it. They obviously played an alpha, like a pre-alpha, right? And they still have another like 6 months, or they had 6 months at the time to continue development. If they listen and they try to develop the game, because you got to think they are now going to have the same game for 2 years. They're going to be wanting people to come back and play for 2 years. That's going to take a lot of changes, a lot of upkeep, and a lot of like flashy stuff to keep players coming back, which is probably more new maps, new guns. Like you're gonna need that constant tuning. So I do have a lot of hope for this. It's tough. I didn't know what to think of this game, and like Cold War, I knew it was going to be good, but I was a little bit worried because people don't know this, but Cold War came out, or a lot of people do know this, but Cold War came out a year earlier than it was supposed to be, and it was still so good. So I do not love IW games, but I think this has been this game's been developed and in development for a long time. It should be in a good place. And if it's going to be for 2 years, that means that Activision has faith that it's going to be a good game for 2 years to keep people there. Because if it's a bad game and then you wait 2 years to do we've seen what it does in like Halo when they wait that long.
Yeah, it chalks it.
You can't have a bad game out for 2 years. So I refuse to believe there's going to neglect multiplayer for 2 years if it's bad. So
if it's bad, that's when they re-release BO2.
Yeah, I refuse to believe that.
They're going to have a backup plan.
Yeah, and if it's that bad, then yeah. I just hope that they take the constructive criticism well, and they because like even pro players don't know the things that should absolutely be in the game or be changed. I hope they have conversations with why they think stuff. I just wish people had more conversations about mindsets and why they think certain things and why the developers think this way, and then the pro players will say why they think the other way, and then maybe they might meet a middle ground that would work. But I just hope that both sides are listening and inputting correctly, and hopefully. Even if the first 6 months aren't good, if we fix all the bugs and all the bad things, the remaining 18 months could be really good. That's what I'm kind of excited for. Like the second year could be amazing if we work out all the shit. Can you imagine if we worked out all the shit from like past games, all the issues? We fix it basically in August for what? We fix all the issues and then the next game comes out. We're going to be able to fix all the issues and then be able to play it for another year. That's what I'm excited for mostly. So to see if it works, like, because maybe it won't work, maybe it will. I'm just kind of it's exciting because I've been playing Call of Duty since COD 4, and this is like brand new to me, so it's kind of fun.
If the game's good, then I believe, but I don't actually have much faith. So we'll see. I'm actually going to keep my expectations as low as I possibly can, and then hopefully that's going to work out for the better. But look, as long as they revamp the maps completely for the second year, it's almost like you're playing a new game. So at that point, I don't really mind. As long as we aren't playing bloody... Because imagine we played the second year of this game and it was still Tuscan, Gavutu, Berlin, like... It's
draining.
I don't know.
It'd be draining.
It's Valorant full time at that point, I think. These three.
But there is enough old school IW maps that we could fucking have like 6 map pools over, and you could see and still
you could do it easily if you wanted to.
They could develop hot take. They could develop enough maps to be like a map pool just by new maps. So you never know. Like
with the edits as well that people want to do, like it's going to be exciting. Hopefully.
Yeah, I am excited. I every year I get all excited. I was all excited for this game. I always get so into the game when S&D at the beginning of the year. So I know I'm going to be I purposely don't watch trailers and everything because I don't want to get overly excited. But I'm sure as soon as the game drops, I'm going to be all excited, and hopefully my dreams don't get crushed. So we'll see next year.
Trust in CCOT, baby. I know Omar's got trust in CCOT, so I've got trust in CCOT. Crone, final thoughts before we close out the show. Been a cracking one. Gone through an awful lot today. Hopefully by this time next week we'll have actual some confirmations, or maybe
hopefully
going it out.
Maybe some rosters get announced, and I'm guessing they're going to probably trial for the rest of the week. I wouldn't expect anything to be announced this week. Maybe Paris might announce Johnny. But Mutineers and Gorillas, I don't think will probably lock anything until next week. When are the matches? They're in 2 weeks, right?
24th? I'm tripping.
So 10 days?
10 days.
Yes.
Not that long.
Oh, we might get an announcement. What's today? Tuesday in America,
14th,
right?
yeah.
Tuesday.
Maybe.
Still 14th here.
I would say early next week we know some stuff.
I mean, you have like 9 days of practice, like from like today to the matches. So. It's kind of interesting. Yeah.
It will be interesting.
Good work. All right. Thanks, boys, for joining us. We'll have Lion back next week, maybe. But thanks, Crone. Honestly, killer job on these. We had a great show. Thanks all for joining us. Again, the YouTube was absolutely killing it today. Twitch just is the inferior viewing experience, apparently, according to the viewer numbers. So come on, Twitch. Up your game for next week. But thanks all for watching on all the platforms and after the fact on the Spotify, the Apple Podcast, all that good stuff. Thanks to the boys for joining me today. And we'll be back next week to hopefully discuss some of these confirmations as to where they might potentially stand going into Major 4. Because some of these teams need changes. They're making changes. Finally, putting one of the more hectic and surprising roster periods we're going to have all season long, as it's been a long time coming. But thanks for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.